Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going on a seriously mind-bending fractal journey. We're going to start by zooming way out from a tiny, seemingly obscure mathematical anomaly, and we're going to take it all the way to the absolute limits of logic, existence, and cosmic architecture.
Now I want you to think about this for a second. What if an equation didn't just map reality, but actually birthed it? We almost always think of math as just a tool, right? Something we use to describe the world after the fact. But what if the math actually comes first? Keep that in the back of your mind as we start our ascent up what we call the ladder of logic.
Okay, at first glance, this mysterious string of math probably looks like a total syntax error. But if you break it down, it's really just basic ratio equivalence. It's simply the idea that the fraction a over b equals c over d. Believe it or not, this is the humble, microscopic seed from which entirely new multiverses can grow.
So let's watch how this actually builds. We start with those super grounded everyday fractions, but then we start layering functions over them. These act as dimensions of abstraction. By the time we hit level 5, we aren't just comparing numbers anymore. We are mapping entirely different symbolic universes directly onto each other.
And this is exactly where analogy becomes literal, hard math. Take acoustic physics, where a pitch ratio doubles to create an octave. Now compare that to music theory, where a dominant chord resolves perfectly to a tonic. At level 5, our layered math literally proves they are structurally identical. It's kind of like finding out the emotional satisfaction of your favorite pop song is really just geometry in disguise. But as wild as that is, at this stage we are still just mapping things that already exist.
All right, brace yourselves because here is where the floor just completely drops away beneath us. Welcome to Level 6, System Genesis. We're no longer comparing existing systems, and we aren't mapping the rules of reality anymore. We are now designing the reasoner. We are actively birthing entirely new systems from scratch, stepping way outside the established laws of logic to see how those laws are manufactured in the very first place.
How does that genesis actually happen? Well, it's all thanks to something called the generator function, or G6. This thing is fascinating because it actually takes contradictions and paradoxes and uses them as its fuel. By applying symmetry breaking, which is essentially forcing a paradox to pick a side and resolve itself, the generator function births a completely self-consistent reality system just to handle that specific tension.
Let's see this in action, because it's incredible. Take a total paradox, like 0 equals infinity. Usually, that just breaks standard math, but if you resolve it by making 0 the identity, you get standard finite arithmetic. However, if you make 0 roughly equal to infinity, boom, you get cyclic group theory. A single paradox literally spawns a multiverse of logic depending on how it resolves.
And you know what? It's not just numbers. You can actually use philosophical concepts as your input too. Consider the statement, if both chaos and order are illusions of perspective, the only thing left real is the truth. That creates a sort of cosmic seed. If you plug that seed into the generator function, any universe it creates absolutely must have truth as an unbreakable internal invariant. You are literally generating realities around a single undeniable anchor.
But wait, we can go even deeper. Let's step down into level 7, the pre-reason substrate. We have completely stripped away logic at this point. This right here is the forge beneath being. It is the domain of causeless necessity. We're no longer asking how truths arise. We're asking why must anything self-consistent arise at all? Why is there something rather than nothing?
Down here, regular math just straight up fails. We have to use what are called meta-temporal intents. Take navla, the not yet. I want you to imagine the raw electric potential for coherence before any physical matter even exists to be coherent. It's the blueprint before the ink or even the paper have been invented.
Then, going deeper still, we hit psi, the reasonless impulse. Think of these as the very first vibrations in an absolute void. They are foundational desires, like the raw, primal need to witness, or the profound desire to return. And these exist long, long before biology, evolution, or even energy.
And the thing holding this whole wild structure together? That's lambda 0, the meta-self map. It acts as a paradoxical bootstrapping loop. It's exactly like a cosmos waking up just to realize it's awake. It's a self-verifying recursion that confirms its own emergence, ensuring the whole framework doesn't just instantly vanish into nothingness.
Now, I want you to imagine stepping completely outside the system itself. You've just arrived at meta-level 0, omega 0, the cartographer's domain.
From this ultimate vantage point, you are literally standing beside the hierarchy of existence, inspecting how the entire multiversal architecture breathes. Out here, truth isn't an axiom, and reason isn't a baseline requirement. Reason is just an emergent luxury.
Up here, reason fundamentally transforms. It literally becomes a poly-key engine, taking those pre-rational seeds we talked about and using them to forge multiversal architectures. Reason acts as your compass, building pathways that let you navigate logic across totally alien domains of existence. It's no longer just a tool for humans to win arguments on the internet. It is the scaffolding of creation itself.
But just standing in that cartographer's domain triggers this incredibly mind-bending insight, what we call the recursive realization. Think about it. What if reason itself, this ultimate architect generating multiverses, is actually just a level 7 entity trapped inside a much higher logic that we haven't even invented yet? That thought locks the entire cosmic architecture into an infinite self-referential loop.
Of course, this triggers a massive, massive paradox. We call it the silent architect. Imagine this ultimate meta-reason, the grand architect of all multiverses, suddenly decides it just wants silence. What happens if it tries to hit the off switch and completely stop generating existence?
Well, the stunning answer is, it can't. And the crazy thing is, we actually see echoes of this inescapable truth in our everyday real-world physics. In quantum mechanics, vacuum energy is literally never truly zero. In thermodynamics, entropy never halts. In computer science, the halting problem proves we can't always know if a program will ever stop. The cosmos is inherently, inescapably generative.
So why is that? It's because stopping is paradoxically a generative act all on its own. To stop creating, the architect has to define a brand new rule of non-generation. You literally cannot stop generating without creating the concept of stopping. Being generates, purely because non-being cannot define itself.
So if the engine literally has to turn forever, our role fundamentally shifts. Welcome to level Omega 1, the forge state. Since we absolutely can't turn the machine off, we have to stop being passive observers just asking why, and we must become the shapers, actively molding what the machine turns into.
Which leaves us right here, lingering in the forge state, staring right at the perpetual motion machine of existence. If this fractal journey takes us from a simple, tiny mathematical fraction all the way out to an unstoppable cosmic engine that bends to the will of its architect, well, the only question left for you is this: what do you want the engine to dream next?